When my best friend dared me to spend 1 week living as someone completely different, I laughed it off. But the truth is, I needed a shake-up. I'd been stuck in a routine, gray office, gray walls, gray moods. So when he said, "What if you did something wild for a week? Really see the world through someone else's eyes?" I said yes. I didn't realize that one impulsive yes would change the way I saw myself forever. The idea was simple. For 7 days, I'd participate in a documentary project about identity and perception. Each participant would adopt a new persona, new style, new behavior, new outlook, to see how it affected confidence and empathy. My assigned role? To present myself as someone who didn't fit my usual image at all: expressive, colorful, emotional, and open. The team even arranged stylists, clothes, and coaching. I'd have to commit, full immersion. I remember the first morning, standing in front of the mirror while a stylist adjusted my outfit. Bright colors, softer fabrics, jewelry that caught the light. I couldn't recognize myself. Part of me wanted to bolt. But another part whispered, "You agreed to this. Just breathe." When I stepped out of the studio, I felt every pair of eyes on me. And that was the first shock, how different the world looked when I stepped outside my comfort zone. At work, my colleagues were stunned. Some laughed, thinking it was a prank. Others smiled politely, not knowing what to say. I kept telling myself, it's just 7 days. But each interaction chipped away at the shell I'd built for years. I started noticing things I'd ignored before: how quickly people judge, how kindness sometimes hides behind awkwardness, how a smile can soften tension instantly. The hardest part wasn't the clothes or the makeup or the attention. It was confronting how much I'd hidden from the world, how afraid I'd been to be seen as vulnerable or expressive. At night, I'd peel off the layers, look into the mirror, and whisper, "Who am I under all this?" By day 3, the experiment had stopped feeling like a costume. People treated me differently, more openly, sometimes protectively, sometimes critically. One afternoon, while buying coffee, a stranger complimented my confidence. I blushed, muttering, "It's just for a project." But she smiled and said, "Maybe, but you wear it like it's real." That stuck with me all day. Back home, I found myself practicing posture, experimenting with tone and emotion, not for the camera, but because I liked feeling connected, expressive, alive. It scared me how natural it was becoming. By day 5, the producers filmed interviews about how the challenge had changed us. I told them something I hadn't realized until I said it out loud. I used to think confidence came from control, from keeping everything neat, predictable. But now I see it comes from openness, from daring to feel. They asked if I'd want to go back to my old style after the week ended. I hesitated. For the first time, I wasn't sure. On the final day, I had dinner with my team and a few friends who hadn't seen me since the start. Their reactions were mixed. Some teased me, others were quietly impressed. One friend leaned over and said, "You seem lighter." And that word hit home. Later that night, as I packed away the clothes and accessories, I realized I didn't want to erase the experience. I wanted to integrate it, to keep the empathy, the boldness, the courage to be seen. The following Monday, I went back to work dressed more like myself, but not exactly. Subtle color, softer tone, relaxed posture. People noticed the change. "Something's different about you," my manager said. I smiled. Just learning to be a fuller version of me. That week taught me that identity isn't a fixed picture, it's a palette. And when you allow yourself to explore new shades, you don't lose who you are, you expand it. It's strange to think how 7 days could shift a lifetime of habits. But maybe transformation doesn't need magical pills or destiny, maybe it just needs curiosity and courage. It's been 3 weeks since the cameras stopped rolling, yet I still wake up expecting another experiment day. I thought life would slip back into its old rhythm once I returned to normal clothes and old routines. It didn't. The mirror looks ordinary again, but I don't. Some invisible shift remains, quiet but constant, like background music I can't turn off. At first, everyone treated my week-long project as a funny story. Coworkers asked, "So, what did you learn?" I'd smile and say something safe, perspective. But the truth ran deeper. That single week had cracked me open. Now, when someone spoke, I noticed tone, tension, hesitation. When a friend laughed too loudly, I could feel the sadness behind it. It was as if empathy had become a second language, and I was finally fluent. One evening, my manager asked me to train a new hire named Riley. They were shy, avoiding eye contact, fumbling through introductions. A few months ago, I would have rushed through the checklist and moved on. Instead, I slowed down. We talked, laughed, shared coffee. By the end of the day, Riley said quietly, "You make it easy to breathe here." That sentence stayed with me longer than any work success ever had. A week later, the documentary producers invited all participants to a follow-up meeting. I almost declined, afraid the camera would undo my calm, but curiosity won. When I walked into the studio, the same stylist greeted me with hugs. The director smiled. "You look different," she said, "but you feel the same, comfortable." During the discussion, others shared how they dropped the experiment completely. But a few, like me, admitted they couldn't forget it. Someone said, "I realized the role wasn't fake, it was just a side of me I'd never let out." I nodded, heart pounding. That was exactly it. Afterward, the director pulled me aside. "We're editing a follow-up piece about transformation beyond the challenge," she said. "Would you speak in it? Not about costumes, about empathy." For a moment, fear whispered, "Don't expose yourself again." But another voice, new, steady, said, "This is what you learn to do, be seen." So I agreed. Preparing for the interview forced me to revisit everything. I spent nights writing notes, trying to explain how a simple role swap had become a mirror for my soul. On filming day, under the soft lights, I told the crew, "When you strip away your comfort zone, you meet parts of yourself you didn't know existed. You start listening, to others, yes, but also to the silence inside you." After the session, a camera operator said, "That hit me. My sister would love to hear this." For the first time, my story wasn't just mine, it resonated. The short follow-up aired online. Messages poured in from strangers, people who'd felt invisible, people who wanted to understand those unlike themselves. They didn't talk about clothes or appearance, they talked about courage, empathy, perspective. One message read, "I used to judge people for standing out. Your story made me realize they are just brave enough to be real." I sat staring at that message until tears blurred the screen. Success brought pressure. A magazine wanted an article, and co-workers joked about my new career. Part of me feared I'd lose authenticity by turning an experiment into content. One evening, I met my friend Sam, the same one who'd dared me in the first place. We walked by the river where lights shimmered on the water. He said, "You know, I thought this whole project would just embarrass you. But you've changed. You're grounded." I laughed. Grounded is a funny word for someone who almost had a meltdown on day one. Sam smiled. "Maybe that's what growth looks like, falling apart and putting yourself back together differently." That night, I wrote in my journal, something I'd started during the experiment and never stopped. Confidence isn't about what people see, it's about what you allow yourself to feel. Empathy isn't weakness, it's awareness. And transformation never really ends, it just deepens. As I closed the notebook, a thought dawned on me. Maybe the challenge wasn't about becoming someone else. Maybe it was about giving myself permission to change at all. Months passed. Riley, the new hire, blossomed under mentorship. The wellness talks I'd begun at work grew into small workshops. People came not for answers but for connection. They wanted what I'd found, permission to be curious, expressive, human. When the production team called again to film an update, I asked if we could include the others too. I wanted everyone's story shown together, to prove that identity isn't a costume, it's evolution. It's strange, a 7-day challenge turned into a lifelong practice. Every morning I still choose which version of myself to bring into the world, the guarded one or the open one. Most days, I choose openness. Looking back, I see that courage isn't about surviving a dare. It's about continuing to live with the lesson once the dare is over. 1 week started it. But the rest of my life will be about living it.